Hello, hello. Welcome to Finsweet Live. Today, I'm joined with Rohan, and we're going to talk about how to say no to unnecessary meetings. We'll look at what unnecessary meetings are. We'll talk about why you should say no to them, why some may be valuable, why some may not be valuable, and really just how to be more efficient and effective with your time. We at Finsweet believe that meetings that are not necessary are a huge time waster and really can hurt a lot of parts of your professional career. So we're going to identify those and talk about them. I am here today with Rohan, and Rohan heads many of the operations at Finsweet. He manages a lot of different graphic assets, projects, information across teams, across the company, across everything. If you need something, you probably want to start with Rohan. He's usually the person that has the information you're looking for. So he probably has the opportunity to have a lot of meetings and also the opportunity to say no to those meetings. And that's why he's here. Rohan, welcome to Finsweet Live. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Joe. Thank you. How are you doing?
Really well, really great. Happy to talk about this because I'm pretty passionate about this topic. How do you feel about this topic?
I'm excited, and yeah, I couldn't really say no to this one, to this meeting.
it's it's interesting for you to be here because you have so many different responsibilities at Finsweet. Some of them are very large, very important, large scale projects. Some of them are tiny, and they're little tiny tasks that you have to do for one little team. And you kind of do all of it. So yeah, there's a lot of potential meetings and a lot of potential. It's really easy to just go to someone and say, let's get on a call and talk about it. But as you probably know, that's going to take up all of your time, all of your calendar days, and you're not going to be able to execute and implement what you actually are talking about. So, yeah, anything else to say before we say hello to the crowd?
Yeah, like meetings are one of those things where you feel like you're doing work, but then you're not doing the work. So that's the funny thing about it.
It's so true. It feels like work, and maybe even it's more difficult than work, at least for me. If I ever have a day filled with meetings, by the end of the day, I'm pretty tired and it feels like
Hmm.
I worked a lot. But if you really have a meeting back to back to back to back, you didn't actually get any work done in terms of execution, implementing. It's just talking. It's talking about
Yeah.
execution. So, yeah, that's a really nice way to put it. I love that. Let's say hello to everybody in the audience. We have a lot of hellos. We have some funny comments. Robert, one thing I've always hated about my meetings is that they always expand to fill the time allotted to them. Robert, that's so true. Rohan, when you said an hour meeting, people kind of have this idea that they should fill the whole hour with the meeting. Do you get that sometimes?
Yeah. So this is why now my default meeting time is 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, so it doesn't exceed.
Yep. I think maybe last year I set my times down to 30. Yeah, about last year, where it's just common to put the hour, fill the whole hour slot. But then I thought, you know what? If it's 30 minutes, you kind of pack that in there to really get everything done in 30 minutes. And it usually gets done. And now, even I'm down to 15 minutes for some meetings. So just trying to lessen them and be more efficient. But yeah, Robert, great comment here. Absolutely true. Love it. Nick Jones really wanted to catch this, but I have a meeting. Nick Jones, that is a funny comment. I like that. I hope it's a valuable meeting. John, hello. What's up? How you doing? Daniel Brasnio, hello. Penny, hey folks, happy Tuesday. Greg Dolan, what's up? Magdalena, hello. Rock and Roll CEO, ready to watch the stream. Great. Pablo Cortez, nice to see you. Everybody, I love when people are here each week. Sean Duval, and I think everybody we're bringing up right now is a weekly viewer. So really great to see everybody here. Musical Boy, love the t-shirt, Rohan. You know what? I do too. I'm going to double that comment. That's a nice one.
Yeah, it's a very Finsweet t-shirt.
Yeah, should I be wearing those? If you think I should be wearing more fun shirts like Rohan, just put that in the comment. If there's an overwhelming amount of people saying this, you may catch me with one. Pixelita, what's up? Oh, Pixelita, we're going to see Pixelita on Thursday. That's going to come in announcements, but we'll see her soon. Okay, and Josh Lowe, hello. Finally here on time. Let's party. Absolutely. Great. Okay, and that's it. Rashid, hello. Let's go into the announcements. All right. Before the announcements, let's talk about some inspiration for this episode. I'll start by saying this episode was inspired by Eve. Eve is one of our super pro Webflow developers, product designer. He is huge, huge impact at Finsweet, huge impact in client first, in attributes, all the things you see us release. Eve probably has some part of it. And he's one of the most efficient people in the whole company. And he regularly will turn down meetings with me. So if I say, Eve, let's get on and talk about this, sometimes he comes back and says, can this be a loom? Can we do something else here? There's no reason to talk about this. And that's cool. I like that. I respect it. So, Eve, thanks for shutting me down on meetings. You are making yourself and myself more efficient, and yet we're still communicating well and delivering valuable products. And Rohan, you have a little bit of inspiration from this episode as well.
Yeah, Bieber, he's a technical dev at Finsweet. He is great at what he does. He's worked on the attributes support system. He's currently working on the solutions for attributes, and he's working on rebuilding Noble. And he is also from Brazil, like Eve. And oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, but sometimes I would ask Bieber to get on a quick meeting to discuss something quick, but he says no. Let's leave it text based. And him saying no was very connected to this show's topic.
I think we can say that the Brazilians at Finsweet are very efficient, very
Yeah.
effective at what they do. And I think part of that is being efficient with meetings. When you have a lot of things to do, you have to really be careful with your time. And yet that's exactly what Eve and Peeber do. So great. Now let's get into announcements. Talking about Peeber, he has finished our social share under the attributes system. So social share is now released for our pros for the next 30 days. You can get that at the attribute site, finsweet.com/attributes/social-share. We'll share that in the comments. That's going to help you set up any kind of share instance from a Webflow site to Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Telegram, Pinterest. We have a whole list of platforms to share to. Thursday, we have Pixelita live on Community Day. Pixelita is the leader of the Flow Parents Group, which was started and formed in the FN Pro community. And now we're going to talk about its expansion, how Pixelita is part of this, and how to get involved as a Webflow parent. Next announcement, we have received a lot of positive comments about our first build day. We had our first build day last Friday. It was Alex Iglesias educating us on the more technical aspects of the web. And we actually got a lot of positive response here. We were going to sprinkle in technical things every few weeks, but we just decided, let's go all out with this. People need this content. They want it. We're going to help people get to the next level. And that's why Alex will be back again this Friday. If you have any interest in the more technical side of web, you should not miss these. Try to come live. We're live on Friday at 9 a.m., different time slot. And that's going to be a part 2 of last Friday's episode, the development tools that we use at Finsweet. Last announcement, give us a follow on Instagram. We kind of left our Instagram not active, but now we are going to post more on the Instagram. We're going to post snippets about these live shows. We're going to post some funny things, some things about the community, good visual stuff. So we're trying to grow it. So if you're interested in what we're putting on Instagram, check it out. If you like it, give us a follow. And that tells us that we should continue with Instagram stuff. Okay, that's it for announcements. Now it's time to get into the show content. Let's do this. So we are now going to change over to the slides and we're going to go over some science. This is a scientific meeting breakdown. So, Rohan, can you read through these? Let's just go one by one through these items. We're going to hit each one of these in more detail throughout the show.
Sure, yeah. So, warning signs, too many meetings. Warning signs, toxic client, efficient meeting mentality, options to replace meetings, how to politely decline a meeting.
Yeah. And those warning signs, some people don't know that they have too many meetings or that they're not being efficient with their time. So, we're going to try to give you some signs that may tell you, hey, I have too many meetings. Just a little bit of a self awareness type thing. Maybe you're creating too many meetings. Maybe you have some toxic clients that are creating too many meetings. So, we'll go over those. Efficient meeting mentality. We'll look at 2 terms that Rohan has come up with to separate like why you would have a meeting and why you wouldn't have a meeting. The 2 types of meetings that would or would not require a physical meeting time. And then, of course, options and how to decline. So on this left, we set you up with the right way to think about it, the right way to identify. And then on the right, we have the options and then how to actually decline. And we'll go through some examples of that, of what a client might say to you and how you can respond to that to say, hey, I'm actually not going to do a call on this, but we can do this, this, and I'll have that to you in an hour. That's going to all be throughout the episode. So, Rohan, before we go into the next step here, anything else to say or should we move forward?
I think we can move forward. I'm pretty excited with the topic.
Great. And let's see, actually, I left these comments here. So let me see if there's any comments to bring up. Okay, we're getting some positive comments about the shirt. So maybe I do need to try a shirt. I'm actually a huge fan of that type of shirt. So I have a lot of them. So yeah, Rohan, I think you kind of inspired me here. Thank you. Kurt
Right.
W., I work at an enterprise level software company. Meetings are important, but an appropriate agenda needs to be provided ahead of the meeting. Yes, some meetings are important and some of them are not. I can't speak for the meetings that you're having with your company, but it's possible that maybe some of those meetings could be not meetings, could be, um, we'll go through the options, but something else. But we'll talk about that. Okay. What else do we have here? From Rashid. This is nice. I remember a few years back reading 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and it changed my view about meetings. That's a nice book. I read that maybe 12 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't know, but a while ago. And that's a nice book. Really talks about just being conscious of your time and being efficient. Okay, Penny, great comment. I hate trying to explain myself in text. Takes me hours to explain things that would normally take 5 minutes to explain on a call. Okay, Penny, so that's a good comment. Uh, Not everything should be text, and we'll go over some of those options, but absolutely, if typing it out takes a lot longer, that is something to consider when choosing a call or an email or text. Okay, and we'll do one more comment here from Josh Lowe. Do you think most people opt into all types of meetings because one, they're afraid to say no to people, and two, they're a little lazy and would rather talk about work and not do the work? Josh, this is such a great comment. Rohan, can you take this? What do you think about this one?
I do agree with Josh. I think when you first join a company, you're new, and it might just be hard to say no to things that people ask you to do. So, meetings are definitely one of them. And again, to what I said in the beginning, meetings are something that makes you feel like you're working, but you're not actually doing the work. So it's like that feel good factor. Like, yeah, I'm getting something done, but not really.
Yeah. Yeah, for that number two, I think there are plenty of people out there that want to work 8-hour days, but don't know exactly what to work on, or don't think that they can spend 8 hours working throughout the day, but they want to work 8 hours a day. So they'll take meetings, and between some meetings and some implementation work, they fill those 8 hours, and they're talking about it instead of doing it. And yes, of course, afraid to say no to people. This applies to anything that there's just a general idea of being afraid to say no to certain things. That could be at a restaurant to your server. That could be for a meeting with a client. So yeah, Josh, this is a really, really nice question. And maybe we'll reference this question when we continue with the episode. Okay. Great comments. Love it. Now let's continue here with the show content. And we will go in first the warning signs. Too many meetings. Rohan, can you read through this list? And everybody listening, this is a list that you should ask yourself. Do I do this? And if you do too many of these, this could be your problem. So, Rohan, let's read through this power list.
Sure, yeah. I spend more than 50% of my day in meetings. I end my day without my execution tasks complete. I have to schedule meetings more than 1 week in advance. After some meetings, I feel like my time was wasted.
How many of these apply to you?
Number four, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and number two. Yeah. The thing
Yep.
with me is after every meeting, I like to like get off the desk, like off my chair and do some walking around the house because I feel like I've been sitting at the table for this half an hour or maybe 1 hour and I just want to get up and get moving. So that adds on to the time that's not worked.
Totally. And would you say that you spend more than 50% of your day in meetings?
No. Well,
Good.
Mondays are normally busy. I
Okay.
think Monday is sort of like the meeting day, like a weekly stand up, get updates and whatnot. But the rest of the week, I prefer not to have meetings. So it's not it's definitely not filling up 50% of my day.
Yeah. Good. Uh, because I really think that shouldn't. If you're watching this and you say yes to any number of these, it's something to really think about. If you spend more than 50% of your day in meetings, that means you're spending more than 50% talking about doing instead of doing. And really, like, the communication's important. Thinking about what to do is important, but I have to think that almost any position should have more doing than talking about doing. Maybe an exception for sales. If you're just an exclusive salesperson, maybe that's a little different, and your calls are just part of your job. But I think for most people, 50%, that's a good number to look at. And if anybody in the audience wants to come forward and say, "Hey, I spend 50% or more of my day in meetings," tell us. We can talk about it if you'd like. I end my
Joe,
day without yes.
uh, sorry, I wanted to ask how is your day because you're the CEO of the company, you're managing everything. So I would imagine that your days are packed with meetings because you're looking at the agency, you're looking at the products, at the content. So much is going on. So is 50% of your days full of meetings?
No, I'm shooting for like 0 to 5%,
Wow.
maybe 10. Yeah. If you look at my calendar, it's empty. The only things on my calendar are these shows, right? With Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and that's those are my really calendar events. Of course, sometimes an external meeting comes up, but I try to limit those. I have 0 to 2 of those per week. That could be with someone from Webflow. That could be with um, kind of stop there because I can't really think of anybody else. I just don't really take any meetings. If you ask for a meeting, the answer is no. I really try to focus all of my time on being available for the team at Finsweet. So maybe I will take meetings at Finsweet. If somebody asks me for a meeting, I will take it, and I reserve my effort and schedule for anybody working at the company that needs me that day, or for a question, or wants to talk about life or whatever. So definitely less than 50%. I can't imagine myself at 50%. I would not be able to do anything. I would have some type of limiter on me. So yeah, really important, especially as you grow, to keep that number under 50%. And Rohan, I have a question for you. You said I end my day without my execution tasks complete. Now, is that because you just have too many execution tasks to complete in a single day? Or do you think some meetings are getting in the way of that?
I think it's option one. I do like have a set of things I want to do, but I think I just make a long list, and it's like I don't get it done because the list is long.
Yeah, that's that's good. It would not be good if that answer was I don't do my execution task because I have too many meetings. The schedule in 1 week or more in advance. This is if you have a week long schedule and you can't slip somebody inside that week because you already have too many scheduled events, and then you have to go to the next week. So your current week is so packed, you can't fit anybody else in there. You have to go to the next week. This is a sign that you just have too many things on your calendar. So that's also a big no. Um, I mean, for the team at Finsweet, I'm available usually anytime in real time or the next day. But I'm not planning things a week in advance usually. So yeah, that's an important one. When you look at your calendar, it should be fairly empty. It should be flexible. It should allow you to implement and execute. And then this fourth one, let's really talk about this one because this is like the ultimate warning sign. After some meetings, I feel like my time was wasted. Rohan, tell me about this one.
So I could really relate to that. I think last year when I was taking on a lot of calls from like people using Noble, I was providing live real time video support, and I was helping these people understanding what and how they're using Noble. But I also felt like I wasn't getting the things on my list done. So although it was useful, it wasn't the most efficient thing to do. So for version 2, my goal is to create this really large documentation that people can troubleshoot their problems there before even sending us an email. So that was a big push for me.
Nice. That's great. So you could say that you're somewhat automating this process because it just took too much of your time
Yeah.
previously. Yeah, and that's a great example. Focus on this as well on the client side. That if you get off a call with a client and you feel like your time is wasted, and then it happens again and it happens again, you should probably not be on a call with that client. Or you should not be on a call about the process of something, like Rohan says, the process of supporting people. So, really think about this. Think about it this week, think about it next week. When you get off of a meeting, think to yourself, was my time wasted? Did this need to be a call? And once you start thinking about it, that's when you can start making a change about it. So let's go through some more warning signs now on the client side. And we doubled up this first one. Client asks for meetings and you feel your time is wasted after the meeting. This is a red flag for a lot of clients or for just having clients in general. Rohan, have you worked with a client where they're just asking for meetings and after the meeting you think that was total crap? There's why do we have to do that?
Yeah, so I have come across clients who wanted two weekly stand ups a week. That felt
Mm.
excessive. And I noticed a shift in the client's mentality when we started charging them hourly rate. So if there were five people or four people from Finsweet team and they had to pay for everyone's hour, then they proactively said, okay, so we don't need everyone on the team. It's just these guys, and that's the agenda. So the process
Yeah,
became more streamlined when we
nice.
decided to charge the clients for the meeting, for the time.
And a lot of clients will ask for meetings with no schedule or no specific topics. Sometimes there are, right? And sometimes you cover the topics, but sometimes there's not. And it's just kind of like a hangout meeting, just a check in, right? So if a client wants to chat over options or check in with the project or talk about something very general, this is a warning sign. And you will see this in all forms with clients. Some clients do this in an extreme way, some of them do it in a subtle way, but you need to think about it and you need to understand this before the project starts, right? This is not a conversation you have with a client towards the end of the project or in the middle of the project. This is prevented. You can prevent this, and we'll talk about that in a few more topics here. So, Rohan, any final toxic client comments, stories that you can share before we go on?
No, I don't think I have too many of those because I don't normally get on client calls. Thankfully, I guess.
Yeah, you Rohan is less on the client side, but you've worked with clients.
I have, yeah.
Maybe better. Yeah. Okay, great. So let's continue here. Let's go here to this next slide. Now, efficient meeting mentality. So we're discussing some problems. We are talking about what you should be looking out for. And Rohan broke up these two types of meetings and why you would say no or maybe to certain ones. So, Rohan, take this away. What are these two self definitions that you came up with of two different types of meetings?
Sure, yeah. So I think from experience, they can be divided into two parts. The first is informational or task allocation, that is, delegating the work, giving them a list of tasks. I would definitely say no to these types of meetings uh, because the it is better if we have it in text because the information is recorded. We can go back in time and see what it is that was posted. If you have a number list, then you have a checklist of things to do. There is no need to have a meeting for that because you can also do a video recording on Loom and send that over. But then there are situations when a meeting is necessary, where a real time input may be required, wherein you need to work together on a specific task to complete it. In such a scenario, a meeting is necessary, or a weekly check in to clear out any blockers, to discuss the work that had been done the previous week and the tasks that are coming up next week. But again, to such meetings, I would limit it down to 30 minutes and not more. And my personal SOP, like standard operational procedure, is to have a list before a meeting so I don't forget anything and I have a checklist of things to go through. I normally do that with Joe. I think you may have noticed it as well.
Yeah, I love it. Of course, it's wonderful asynchronous communication. So let's let's dig deeper into these two types of meetings: informational or task allocation meetings. A lot of people will want to get on a call just to talk about next steps. So, hey, let's get on a call and talk about our deliverables for next week. Or let's get on a call to catch up with the status of the project. Or let's get on a call to delegate this work to the team. I like to say no to these meetings because I think most of the time they're just not needed. You can communicate this, like Rohan said, in a bulleted list. And it's right there. We talked last week about project management tips, and most project managers said when you have a voice call, you should also bullet and write out that call to make sure everybody agrees and make sure there's no miscommunication. And that in 2 weeks, the person says, "Oh, we never talked about that on the call." But if you write it down, people will get it. So, why would I have a meeting to talk about the information and then create a list of what we just talked about to confirm that when I could just jump right to the list and confirm it right away and just get an emoji green check mark? So, informational task allocation meetings, say no, just usually not needed. And let's bring up a comment from Joseph Bates. This really applies well. Raphael, when at Evernote, mentioned a policy. If any meeting was scheduled without an agenda, nobody was obligated to attend. This ensured everyone's time was respected and optimized. This is great. And yeah, agendas are needed. But you can still have an agenda for a meeting that should never happen. So I can have an informational or task allocation meeting and have a beautiful checklist of all the information we're going to cover and all the task allocation that we're going to get through. But that doesn't mean it should be a meeting. So Joseph, love this comment, and I'll put the asterisks at the end of it and say this is great if the meeting is of value and should be taken. Love it. And then out this real-time input meetings. Now, Rohan, I think, is a little bit more receptive of this type, this real input meeting, where the exchange of information very quickly back and forth is very valuable. And I like to think that a lot of times you can do that equally as well in a Slack message. So we can have real time input meetings, but be inside Slack with text instead of on a call. And the reason I kind of like this is when I'm on a call, I'm dedicated to that person for 30 minutes. Even if there's a little bit of downtime or we're not sure how to move forward with the conversation. But when we're in a Slack message, when that person needs 3 or 4 minutes to think, I can go and answer a different message. Or I can do something else so that I'm continuing to work. I'm not just sitting there waiting. And when you add all of those things up together during the day, this could be an hour or two of optimized time. So, yeah, real time input meetings, maybe. This is a great opportunity to talk it over, really get verbal on this and connect on a topic. But if we take something like attributes as an example, when we developed attributes, we had real time communication in Slack. We never had a video meeting when building the attributes platform. Everything was asynchronous and a lot of real time typing to each other. Super effective, super efficient, super documented. So that's why we have maybe there. It's a judgment call. Uh, but Rohan, would you agree that you are a little bit more on the let's have a video call for real time input meetings?
I think so, yeah. Because I also like I like the side wherein I'm interacting with the person in real time, like meeting them, getting to know them. Not that we are having a casual chat, but just working together. So it doesn't feel like it's just me and this application on the screen. that there's a person
Totally.
behind the screen as well. Yeah.
Yeah, getting to know each other. So a great let's give an example of our team all meeting at Finsweet. Every month we have a team all meeting. Everybody comes. There is an agenda, but you could probably read that agenda and get most of the meeting. But we have it in person because the FaceTime once a month as a team is important because we have such little meetings otherwise that we want at least 1 hour during the whole month where we just see our faces and see ourselves laughing. And that's important. So, yes, there's another aspect aside of this of just like getting to know somebody in a group. All right, let's bring up some comments from the community here. Magdalena, I like short 5-minute meetings to quickly discuss something that would take longer to go back and forth in chat. Yeah, if you can keep a 5-minute meeting, that's great. I think there's a lot of clients that wouldn't be good at 5-minute meetings. But if you have a client that can do a 5-minute meeting or a team member that could do a 5-minute meeting, you should do that. That's cool. Rohan, have you done 5-minute meetings?
Uh, with on Slack Huddle, yes, like just to get on a quick call to talk about this thing and sort it out. I think Slack Huddle is great for that.
Yeah. We have Eve comment. The worst meetings are those when clients go through the design. This is a green button. Here we have an illustration. Right. So, like, Eve is talking about when they introduce you to the design. Here's a button, here's an illustration, and just walking through the design. Like, yes, I can see the design. I'm about to develop it. You don't have to walk me through this design. So, yeah. And if you do want to walk me through, I don't have to be there live at the same time as you. We can do it asynchronously with a Loom, and we'll get to more of that. And let's continue on because we want to get through this content and also talk about now how to actually act on this stuff. Okay. Efficient meeting mentality. We're just going to hit some of these points. First one, time difference or conflicting availability. Asynchronous communication is preferred. If you have a time difference between somebody, or you keep finding that it's hard to connect because you have meetings at this time and this person has meetings this time and there's just no common ground to easily meet conveniently, that's a sign to start thinking, hey, asynchronous communication is preferred here. So, Rohan, talk about this. We have a global team at Finsweet all across the world, a lot of different time zones. This is how we work asynchronously. So, talk about that.
So, firstly, it takes time to schedule a meeting to work across multiple time zones at everyone's convenient time. So, why spend that time into scheduling a meeting when you can just send out the message? And again, the message is documented. So, because we are working across a global team, I believe everyone prefers working on Slack, just sending out messages, and we can
Yep.
reply to them at any time that is convenient to us and not be physically present at one location.
That's another big part of this being physically present. We can still communicate. We can still spend the same amount of time communicating, but being present at the same time may not be the best situation for everybody that's part of the call. Some people, it may be a perfect meeting time. This is exactly what they're looking for. But some people, they may have trouble with that time because they have a meeting before and a meeting after, or they have a deadline and this is kind of stressing them out that they have this meeting at the same time as the deadline. So being present at the same time is just, I don't know, it's not always efficient. It's not always effective depending on where you are and your existing schedule. Next one, language barrier. Language barrier for different speaking languages as well as industry language. So if you're speaking Spanish and English, maybe one person doesn't have the native skills for English or Spanish. So there's a communication issue. But also, this applies to talking to a client about design. So Eve earlier brought up this is a green button. This is an illustration. We don't need this language. This is like this client may think that there is this language has to be given to Eve, but actually the client is not talking in our language. We don't need this information. They don't know how to explain drop shadows. They don't know how to give comments about color mismatch, or they don't know, right? Instead of saying, hey, there's a little bit of a color problem here, they may say, this design is terrible. I don't like it. But they just don't know how to communicate. They don't speak the same language as we do to communicate that color problem. So, language barrier. And I think when you go to writing, when you go to visuals, when you go to Loom, when you go to Figma, this language barrier is lessened because you can speak visually. And speaking visually is so much easier than speaking in a language. So, Rohan, how do you feel about this one? Language barrier.
Yeah, so apart from the technical jargon and the language itself, I think accents or dialects have another aspect to it. So for me, when we moved to the north of the UK, we're now in Northern Ireland, I found it difficult to understand some of the Irish words. Or when we traveled across Scotland, the same thing happened. We're all speaking English, but it's difficult for me to understand what they're saying because there is a very strong accent to it. Another situation I remember in Mexico when I met you, Joe, and we were talking about this thing, and I said footpath, and you were like, "What is footpath?" And I was like, "It's this, street that we're walking on." And he was like, "Oh, that's a sidewalk." Okay,
Yeah.
well, we were talking about the same thing, but we didn't get it at that very moment. So that is another barrier in language.
It is. And this kind of barrier, it's so vast, right? Like these little phrases that may be a mismatch. It could be completely non native speaking and it could be industry. So, yeah, that's a great example that when you put things in text, for a lot of people, it's easier to understand and remember. With voice, with verbal, maybe it's great when you're doing it, but afterwards, I just don't think it sticks as much. So, yeah, this is one of the efficient mentalities. And then last one on this list is can this meeting be replaced with an alternative communication? That's what you need to ask yourself when you have meetings. I'm having this meeting. Do I need to talk about it in voice or can it be replaced with Loom or Slack or um, a project management tool or email or something? And if the answer is yes, that's when you need to start rethinking your meeting strategy. So now let's go on to the options. This is what we've been waiting for here. So we presented why you may not want to have meetings, what to look out for meetings, the two types of meetings, and why you would say yes, no to one, and maybe to the other. And really, you have to be able to suggest the alternate route, the options. We're not going to have a voice meeting. So instead, we're going to have one of these meetings. Organize written message with lists. Rohan, you're really good at this. Rohan has known that I don't like meetings since a long time ago, but 2 years. So when Rohan needs to tell me something in detail, he'll make a big write up about it, each individual message so I can thread them and we can communicate very complex topics asynchronously through this written message with lists. So, Rohan, talk about this. How have you used this with me and with other people at Finsweet?
I love making lists. Numbered lists are my favorite because then you know the number of things you have on that list and you can keep track of what's done, what's remaining. And I like to keep the word count on each list item short. So again, um, like compressing the amount of information into fewer words. Because more often on paragraphs, they tend to become long, but lists are generally shorter.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's it's shorter and it's right to the point, right? There's no extra information. If you're writing, write it short, write it sweet. Let's bring up a comment from Magdalena. I had a client, there was a bit of a language barrier. Written communication proved to be much clearer and more beneficial than calls. It gave them time to translate the message and be on the same page. Nice. I like that. That's really interesting. And Magdalena, if you can share the languages that are in question here, or maybe where that person is from, where that company is from, that would be helpful. Okay. Uh, let's bring up from Daniel. This is a cool comment. A no-code startup approached me to work for them as a lead designer. We already had 9 calls, and they want at least 2 more. I'm shutting down the process because this is just ridiculous. So yeah, Daniel, this sounds like meeting culture. That's what I like to call it, meeting culture. That there is a culture at the company of taking meetings and discussing informational or task allocation type tasks. So, yeah, this is a problem. I'm glad you're going in the other direction. Okay, let's continue with these screen recording apps. We use loom.com. This, I think, is one of the most powerful tools to replace the meetings. So instead of having this meeting where you both have to be there for 30 minutes, you can film a 10-minute Loom video, explain everything you wanted to do solo. Doesn't have to be perfect, right? No one's expecting you to have a perfect and produced Loom video. You just want to get the information there. I watch the 10-minute video when I want to, and I film another 10-minute video right back to you. So now we have communicated back and forth. There's no extra stuff. I'm able to show you what I'm talking about visually, not just talk about it. And this has been a huge tool for us at Finsweet. If you are not using Loom or a screen recording app, you must check it out. You must download it and try it. Very valuable. So, Rohan, how has Loom kind of changed the way that you meet with people?
my favorite part about Loom is the speed of the video, that you can change it to 1.25, 1.5, or even 2. So that 5-minute video is now taking lesser time and I'm still consuming the same information. So I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's a great hack, right? Someone films a 10-minute video, you put it on 1.5, and now it's less time, 7.5, I guess. So that is really helpful, right? You're now in control of your time, you're in control of your schedule. You get to watch that and respond to it when you want. So just that tool alone, I think, can cut most people's meetings much, much lower. On page commenting apps, Rohan, we've used these for bug reporting. We've used these for design changes. We've used it for comments and clients, internally, externally. These on-page commenting apps, talk about them. How do we use these?
They're really great because this application called BugHerd, clients can get onto the page, um, choose that very element that they want to talk about, and leave a comment. And that comment is translated into a Kanban view on the back end. So now the Webflow developer has a list of things to do that he can complete and change the status to complete as well. And there is no necessary for meetings or even Loom. So tools like Bughard will help um, troubleshoot some issues.
That is very visual. These first three that we've gone over, the written message, the screen recording, the on-page commenting apps, these are more visual ways to communicate when compared to voice, especially the screen recording app and the on-page commenting app. So bringing this visual communication into your project, I think, is a much better way to communicate than going in a meeting and screen sharing. And Gabe brings up a great comment here. The fun part is that Loom takes care of the upload while you're shooting it. So you're just done, you copy the link and share it. This is less time than trying to find a meeting time and trying to prepare for the meeting time and all this stuff. You just record the video, you get a link, you send it. And now, a lot of times, I don't even give a preview of what I'm talking about in Loom. I just send the link. And like my introduction and hello is in the link. No extra text needed, all visual. I can be in there in the video with Loom. Okay, let's continue on the visual approach. Figma file with visual explanation. Instead of having that face-to-face meeting, like Eve said, where the client talks about this and this and this and this, they can record themselves in Figma explaining this. Tell your client to use a screen recording app. We'll get to this in the next section. Tell them how the best way to communicate is. Set these expectations. And a walkthrough Loom Figma file where you can put the speed at 2x and still like kind of see what's going on. This is much quicker and much more efficient and more responsible of other people's time. So, Rohan, you actually just did this 2 days ago. You sent me a Figma file and said, this is what we're thinking about. Please send feedback. Done. I open the Figma file. It's in preview mode. I record myself. This is what I'm thinking. Bye-bye. Done. And like in less than 15 minutes between both of our times, we have sent an example, commented on it, and now in the iteration phase. Highly efficient. And now,
Yeah.
Rohan, I want you to talk about, oh, sorry. You can comment on this, but then I want you to go right into the project management tools and setting milestones.
Sure, yeah. Another useful thing about Figma is like with tools like Bughurt, clients can target a particular element, but with Figma, the clients can take the existing design elements and do a mock-up of how they want something to be. So now they're actually showing you what they want something to look like instead of just telling you about it. So that is great as well to do in Figma. Um,
Absolutely. Like a mood board, right? I'm thinking mood
yeah,
board when you explain that, or like a mood board, or like even links, right? You can create like a whole visual explanation in Figma, including text, typing, lists, checklists, whatever. Just get everything outside of this verbal explanation.
yeah. And moving on to project management tools and setting milestones. So here at Finsweet, we use Notion, and everything there is documented. The project scope essentially becomes your roadmap, and you can use the same roadmap to give a status update to the client. You can make the page public or invite the clients to that very page, and they can keep track in real time or check in every week to see the number of things that we need to do and the things that are complete. So yeah, that's one thing we could do.
So, with all these options, these are things that you can now present to your clients, present to your team, and be very open about how and why you use them. So, now in this next section, how to politely decline a meeting. We want to not only decline the meeting, but give the option for what's better than the meeting. So, number one, this may be the most important one. Be transparent about your meeting strategy before the project starts. It's really hard to change the meeting cadence halfway through the project. You have to do that right in the beginning of the project. I don't do a lot of meetings because in my 3 years experience, my 1 year experience, it doesn't matter. I I think that communicating with this tool and this tool is much better. That's exactly what we do for our clients. So we say, hey, we don't talk in email. We don't do meetings that much. Instead, we're going to add you to our Slack workspace, and this will be the primary tool for communication. Because of the 50 clients that we've had, this works the best. This is how we have the most streamlined communication, and this is what's going to help us deliver a really great product for you. So you got to bring this up in the beginning, the efficiency, the effectiveness. Rohan, talk about this. How do you decline a meeting from somebody?
Well, just by asking them for an agenda. And when they send you an agenda, you can now convert that into a chat and tell them, okay, these are the things that are done. And for those things that aren't done, we need to take these next steps. So they may ask you for a meeting, but you can change the conversation into a chat.
Yeah, into a chat. So, for example, I get a lot of comments. Hey, can we get on a quick call? Can we meet today? Can we talk about something? And usually, my answer for external is I'm not able to meet today, but I can have any conversation here in Slack, in Twitter, in email, whatever. Like, I'm not meeting with you, but I will talk to you. I will respond to what you're asking for. I'm just not going to get on a call with you. And I'm very open about that and transparent about it. And it's not easy to say no. There were some comments earlier about this that, who had that great comment? Josh Lowe. Josh, if you're still here, great comment. This idea of not feeling comfortable to say no. I think it's uncomfortable to say no if you don't have any options to replace it. So if someone says, "Can I have a call?" and you just say no, this is uncomfortable. Yeah, this is a little weird, right? But if you say no, I can't do this, but I'll record a Loom video by the end of tomorrow to explain this process to you. That's okay, right? We're still going to communicate what we need to communicate, but it's not going to be a call. So, Rohan, can you give a tip on like what you would say to somebody who asks for a call that you don't want to take?
Well, before I answer to that, I want to just talk about this idea that I was having that when you have a contract with a client, I think you can have like a set number of meetings allocated on the timeline. Like this is when we would have a QA session, and anything over that, you charge them by the hour or, yeah. And that would immediately make the client not want to go on with the meeting because that is an extra cost to them.
Nice. So that's being super transparent about meeting strategy, even to the point of putting it in the contract. That's an interesting one. Um, yeah, that's something to think about if you're running an agency to to say this project includes X hours of communication, and that's now worked into the cost. So at least if you have a pointless meeting, you are getting paid directly for that meeting time. But even with that, right? Even if you put it into the contract, people are still going to ask. So be ready with these options. You should be familiar with these options for yourself. Use them for your own agency. Write lists. Use Loom. Use Bugherd and Markup. Use Figma and start communicating to your clients with this method so that when you're presented with this, you can politely say, I'm not going to meet, but I'm going to do this. And you will follow up with that. So we have 1 minute left on the stream. Um, this this is how we kind of approach meetings. It's a little aggressive in a sense of like no meetings, be super efficient, super effective, but being in control of your own time is so important. It's like I if I'm not in control of my time when I'm working, this is it ruins work for me. So, regardless of what you think about some of this content, just be respectful of your time. Be respectful of other people's time. And I think that really comes down to asynchronous work. Rohan, any last comments here to talk about to say to the audience?
Sure, yeah. At the end of the day, we're all goal oriented. Like we want to finish the project together. So it's best to choose the approach that suits the situation. And in this case, having lesser meetings means more time to do the work and quicker you can finish the project.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for tuning in live. Thursday, we're live with Pixelita about Flow Parents. Friday, we're back with Alex Iglesias talking technical part 2 of Finsweet development tools. And after this, if you want to go over to Twitter, they're doing a cool Twitter space Webflow party about maintaining your talent. So go check that out. Really cool. And thanks for being here. Everyone have a great day and say no to your next meeting.